Now, the United States or China, which country's political system actually produces better and more qualified leaders? In today's video, we're going to be examining the pros and cons of both America's form of democracy and comparing that to China's one-party state. I'm going to be presenting you with facts and ultimately letting you, the viewer, decide for yourself on which country's system is actually producing better leaders. Let's get started. Hi everybody, my name is Cyrus and I want to welcome you back to the channel. If you're new here, what we do is make weekly videos about China and its role in society today. Now, I'm an expat for the past 13 years living around the world, and 10 of those years were spent in Greater China, and I think it's very important that people understand China because China is going to have a huge role in our society and our entire world moving forward. Now, I believe that many people around the world actually fear China, but the biggest reason for their fear is that they simply do not understand China. So the goal of this video, and certainly this channel, is to help build that bridge and to serve and to fill that gap, because I believe that when the United States and China can learn to work together, the entire world wins. Now, before we talk more about China's one-party state, let's start with my home country, America, and talk about the pros and cons of democracy. Now, I believe that the biggest advantage for a democracy is the hope and the optimism that it provides its citizens. You see, we know that in America, no matter how bad the current administration of government is, we know that we can single-handedly change the entire direction of course of our current government by simply voting in a new party. And this is exactly what the current citizens of America are facing. We know that in this November, we can either re-elect President Donald Trump to continue down this path, or we can choose to change parties and we can elect Democratic nominee Joe Biden and change paths ultimately. So we have a very big decision to make as Americans. And again, it's this optimism. It's this belief that, you know what, if you do not like what's happening in America, you can run for president and you can change the society that we live in today. You see, there's only two requirements to become the president of the United States. The first is you must be born in the United States of America, and the second is you must be at least 35 years of age. Now, given these two very generic requirements, we now realize that there are hundreds of millions of potential candidates to become the president of the United States. However, we know that this is only in theory how it works, because ultimately to become the president, you need to have a tremendous amount of money, you need to have a tremendous amount of connections, but probably the most important skill set that you need to have is the art of public speaking and persuasion. You see, ultimately democracy is actually a popularity contest. And if you are able to captivate the minds and the hearts of the people in your country, you can win that election and you can become the president. To further illustrate my point, let's take a look at a handful of US presidents in recent history. We'll start with Ronald Reagan, who of course was a Hollywood actor and eventually parlayed his on-screen success to become the most beloved Republican president of all time. Then we have Bill Clinton, who again is a phenomenal public speaker, and even though he had a scandal in the White House, he remains one of the most beloved US presidents. George Bush, of course, was not known for his public speaking ability, but he had those family connections that got him into the office. And then we have Barack Obama.
It is that fundamental belief, I am my brother's keeper, I am my sister's keeper, that makes this country work. It's what allows us to pursue our individual dreams and yet still come together as one American family.
Now, that speech that I just showed you came from the 2004 Democratic National Convention. Up until that point, Barack Obama was just a senator from the state of Illinois. He was relatively unknown on the national stage in America, but he was chosen to be the keynote speaker because he has a phenomenal way to captivate audiences. Now, I remember being a university student, and the day after that speech, I went into my classroom and my professor asked his students, "Did you see that speech last night from Barack Obama? That man knows how to captivate an audience, and he is a phenomenal public speaker. Mark my words, he will become the next president of the United States." And that, of course, leads us to President Donald Trump, who is the first president in United States history to have zero political experience. In fact, I believe he pulled off the greatest upset in political history when he took down Hillary Clinton, a woman that had basically been groomed her entire life to become the first female president. But one of the biggest things that Hillary Clinton lacked was that ability to be charismatic. She couldn't captivate an audience. She simply was very boring. But ultimately, one of the greatest disadvantages for America's system is the division that exists between both the left and the right, the Republicans and the Democrats. Now, in a perfect American system, it would look like this. We would have the Democrats would be on the left side, the Republicans would be on the right side, but they'd be very closer to the middle, and that middle point is the fact that we are all Americans. Now this in theory and on paper is how it should look. But ultimately, America is not like this. America looks more closely like this. We have the Democrats on the very far left, the extreme left, and we have the Republicans on the extreme right. They're so far separated from the middle that they are not looking at each other as Americans, but simply enemies. And I believe that that is the greatest political advantage that China has over the United States. You see, the United States is focused on tearing each other apart, and the left and the right are constantly in battle. But China's one-party state is only one party. So there's only one direction that it can move, and that is forward, with a very clear and very decisive mission. Now, as we transition to talking about China's one-party state, let's begin this analysis by analyzing President Xi Jinping's political career. Now, Xi Jinping was born in the capital city of Beijing in 1953, and at the age of 21, he joined the Communist Party of China. He went on to earn a chemical engineering degree from Tsinghua University, one of the most respected universities in all of China. After that, he began his political career by starting as a secretary for the vice premier of the Central Military Commission. Following that, he began his provincial service starting off in Hebei. He then later moved on to the province of Fujian for 17 years, and then was elected to the 16th Central Committee in 2002. Now this was very important because in 2002, when being elected to the Central Committee, this really marked President Xi's ascension into the national political stage in China. Now he went on to serve the province of Zhejiang for a period of 5 years, and in March 2007, he became the party secretary of China's most modern, developed, and really sprawling metropolis of Shanghai. Now, he only lasted in that position for a period of 6 months because in October 2007, he was appointed to the 9-man Politburo Standing Committee, the highest committee in all of China, and the following year, in March 2008, he was elected as the vice president. He maintained that position for over 4 years, and on November 15, 2012, Xi Jinping became the General Secretary of the Communist Party of China. Now, there are 3 points that I'd like to follow up on China's system. The first is we can see Xi Jinping took approximately 4 decades to get to the top position in China. You see, China's system is based on meritocracy. The only way that you can move forward is based on previous results and achievements. It's not so much about being popular, it's about getting the job done. If you have proven yourself to be effective and you have the results to back you up, you can then move up the ranks and you can eventually become the president of China. The other point that's interesting to note is that Xi Jinping is the son of a highly ranked Communist Party official. Now in America, usually when your father is involved in politics, this can help you in your race to become president. We made that a point earlier with George Bush as an example. However, for Xi Jinping, this did not allow him to go any faster than any other president in history. In fact, it still took him nearly 4 decades, and he still had to start at the bottom. The other point that I'd like to make is that there are elections that happen in China, they just happen at the local level. For example, in America, I have the ability to vote for the president, the highest position in the land. Now in China, Chinese citizens do get to vote at the local level. They can participate in local elections, and with these local elected officials, they then move on and they start electing other officials down the line, and it moves on until standing committees vote for the president. So in an indirect way, they are voting for the president, but it starts with local elections, and that is a fundamental difference. Chinese vote at the local level, whereas Americans, we get to vote at every level. Now at this point in the video, I'd like to make a comparison between the United States system and China's system, and for this example, I'm going to use the recent vice president candidate Kamala Harris for this example. Now Kamala Harris, she earlier this year launched a campaign to become president. Unfortunately for her, she garnered less than 2% of the vote and eventually dropped out of the race. Now Kamala is a very accomplished attorney, and she just began her political career as a senator back in 2017. You could say that she does not have a lot of political experience, and that was highlighted by the fact that she garnered less than 2% of that vote when she ran for president. Now, if we were to take Kamala Harris and we were to plug her into China's system, she would not have the credentials to really advance. She would barely qualify for a local regional role in China's political system. However, because of her background and because she ticks all the boxes for Joe Biden, she makes a perfect vice president candidate. And again, she's going to garner votes. And very likely, if Joe Biden wins the presidency this November, he most likely will not be able to go a full 4 years in the term. In fact, many Democrats are saying that Joe Biden, he will eventually just pass the presidency on to his vice president. So very, very likely we could have Kamala Harris. And again, this is not a shot at her. This is just simply making an observation saying that if you took her experience and plugged that into China's system, she would not qualify to advance. However, in America's system, she very likely could be the first female president within the next 12 to 18 months. Now, China's one-party state is not a perfect system by any means, and just recently, in the past couple of years, the party made a decision to eliminate term limits on presidency. That effectively allows Xi Jinping to rule indefinitely in China, and this is something that I certainly do not approve of, because I believe when you look at other countries around the world, an example comes to me is Germany and Angela Merkel, who has been the Chancellor of Germany for over 15 years. You know, she's been in that position a little bit too long. I believe that she's a little bit stale. I believe that Germany could go in a little bit better direction, and I believe that changing power at the top is actually a healthy thing for a country. Now, many people also like to slam China for human rights. For example, earlier this year when the coronavirus hit the city of Wuhan, many people around the world were very critical of China when they instituted these nationwide policies. For instance, a nationwide shutdown, a nationwide mandate on wearing masks. Many people in the West said, look, this is a draconian measure, and this is eliminating human rights within China. They should have the basic freedoms. Now, the interesting, again, it's a catch-22 because of China's system and because the fact that they are that one-party state, they can move very fast and the people have to obey. When China locks down, there is not an ability for the citizens to go out and say, well, I have freedom. I want to do what I want to do. But there's also an advantage to that because we see now that life in China has pretty much returned back to normal. Just last week there was a huge pool party in Wuhan, and everybody that was admitted into the pool party had been tested negative for the coronavirus. Life in China is moving forward because of that one-party state and because of their decision to lock things down. Now, in conclusion to this video, I want people to understand one simple thing. In fact, if you remember this one statement from this video, I'll consider it a success, is the fact that both systems, America's form of democracy and China's one-party state, have both achieved tremendous success in its history. America was the greatest country in the world for almost over 200 years, a powerful country that led the world, and they achieved a tremendous amount by embracing capitalism and having a democracy. I am not anti-democracy, and I do realize that it is a successful form of government. However, I'm here looking in the middle, and I also realize that what China's been able to do over the last 30 years has also been successful. It's a very different system than America, but it has also proven to be successful. China's government has alleviated poverty. It has risen the standard of living in China so high that now its #1 export around the world is international tourists. As Chinese people travel around the world, they have discretionary income, and people are moving from the lower class to the middle class, and from the middle class to the upper class. People are advancing their lives in China. And again, within a few short years, China will become the first non-Western country to become the world superpower. And they've done this by doing it their way, through a one-party state. Now, I believe it's very important for people to realize that both forms of government have been successful and that we simply cannot copy and paste one form of government into another. I believe that if you took China's one-party state and you enforced that in America, it would be a catastrophe for the United States of America. And likewise, if you took America's version of democracy and you put that into China, it would also be a disaster for China. It's very important for people to realize that we live in a very unique and a very diverse world, and that there's more than one type of government that can exist. And even though if you're an American and you say, I don't want to be communist, I don't want to live like Chinese people do, we must also realize that there's a lot of Chinese people there that actually love their country and love their government, and they're actually saying the same thing about America. I love my country, China, and I don't want to live like Americans. So it's very important that we get a better understanding of both forms of these governments, realize that both have been proven successful, and realize that we live in a diverse world. Thank you for watching this video. I hope this shared some insights into both political systems. And ultimately, again, I'm here to present facts and let you make the decision on which country that you would like to live in. So everybody, I want to thank you for watching this video. If you're new to this channel, again, hit that subscribe button, drop me a comment down below, and we have some very exciting things coming up here. We're going to be doing more live shows on the channel. We're going to be launching a new membership site here. We have a lot of exciting things coming up, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Also click that bell so you get the notifications when a new video drops, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next video. Thank you.